approach things that the rest of us honestly shouldn't touch. So if someone has some patterns of disordered eating, if they have emotional eating patterns, to be honest, I'm going to back away from that. That's not something I'm qualified to deal with. And she is able to dig into those things. So part of that is with our mindset and metabolism is helping you identify if you have some of those areas. And then if you do, you need to find the proper help, because the plan isn't what's going to get you there. You're going to need to be able to talk through some of those things, dig into why you have those problems. So if you're following the plan and a wife or spouse is really getting into you and you're going to have an emotional response to that, the plan doesn't matter anymore. You need to be able to approach that emotional response and deal with it. And you got to be able to look at it to deal with it. You're not going to just react positively.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I've tried to adopt every way to skin the cat, fitness wise and health wise, and you try to cut corners. I grew up in a house where it was the 80s and 90s where there was the diet fads online, and my dad had little machines on your abs and that that kind of stuff. And you have to kind of get rid of all that before you can really get to where you need to get to. And that's why I was saying, from my perspective, understanding my why and how I got here, it was really how I started to actually make some
absolutely.
progress.
If you notice, and it's not an easy thing to notice yourself and when you make mistakes or why you make mistakes, but if you really can have some help to do this, but to look into where am I making my mistakes? Where am I falling apart? Is it after work? Is it before work? Is it, before a training session, on my off day? There's different things there's patterns that are going to come up. And if you don't pay attention to them and look at why you're approaching them that way, then it's going to bite you in the rear end.
Well, and it just keeps popping up, and it just keeps being your excuse. And until you're sick of that excuse, you're really not going to do anything about it.
Oh, my boss yelled at me. He's probably going to yell at you again. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to handle that before it hits you?
Absolutely. And so, in terms of who's around you and who you have, in your life, how much is that part of it? Do you have to is there a recommendation of cutting certain people out or certain things that kind of lead you in the wrong direction?
Having a proper support system is huge, 100%. There is no way around that. So, I can't say, yes, cut everybody out. No, that won't work. We cannot live in an isolated situation like that.
But the people that maybe feed that one thing that you don't want to do anymore.
Right, and that's a decision that you're going to have to look at. How is this setting me up for success, or how is it setting me up for failure? So you definitely need to get the people around you that are part of your core support system, whether you're married or significant others or things like that. You definitely have to build a team, and it might be necessary to cut some pieces of that out if they're not willing or able to help you.
And I think the understanding that it's okay to do it, and it's not it is a selfish thing, but it's an okay selfish thing. It's something that's getting you towards your goals. I mean, ultimately, at the beginning, I would probably feel bad about it. I'm the type of person that would be like, no, I'll find a way to make it work with this person and still do this.
Right. See, I don't even think you can call that a selfish thing. If you are doing what is necessary to make you a better person, because this isn't just about your body. There's different pieces of it. That mind side of it is not to be escaped. So if you're doing something that's going to make you a better person in general, you're going to be better to your kids, to your family, to your job. So I don't even see it as selfish. It's tough to make a cut like that, but overall, you're going to be better for it.
No, it makes perfect sense. And then so you sit down, there's one-on-one consultations that happen, I would assume, or is it kind of, how does it work when someone sits down with you guys?
Absolutely. It's very support based. We want to be a piece of that team. So there's one-on-one consultations, whether it's in the office with us, whether it's online like Skype calls or things like that, or just email based. Really depends on the person and how comfortable they are with the technology a lot of times. But you have to be able to sit across from someone, whether that's digitally or not, look at the struggles that they're having and dig into the why of those struggles. You can get a solid plan and set yourself up for success, but if you're not really digging into where am I making my mistakes, what is my thought process around, or the emotional reaction that's causing those, you're going to have a real hard time just grinding through every day forever. You can't just grind through forever. You can grind through 2 weeks of no carbs.
Yes.
It's tough, but you can do it. But are you going to be able to do that for 30 years?
So it's the sustainable part of it.
Exactly. You have to put all the pieces together to make it a lifestyle. And you cannot struggle and fight and grind for 30 years straight. You have to have some of it help you along.
And then I think where most fall short is giving themselves enough time. Is there a timeline in which, is kind of a standard where you say, okay, it's going to take X amount of time to kind of shed some of these things that you've gone through and to get you to where you need to be? Because I think that, someone going, oh, it's just not for me, it's been 3 weeks and I've seen no change, I'm just going to quit. I think that happens a lot in fitness and food and, in life in general.
From a physiological perspective, there are definitely kind of some timelines you can approach, certain rates of fat loss and muscle gain, things like that. But when you're talking about the mindset of it, you can't put restrictions on it like that, I don't think. Everybody's going to react to it differently. They're going to have an easier or harder time kind of being a little introspective and looking inside. And it's not easy to really be vulnerable with another person. So sometimes that might be harder for other people, and I wouldn't want to put a timeline on that side of it.
So, yeah, and not comparing yourself to somebody else's timeline is important, too.
Exactly.
I think that a lot of people go, well, he just did it. I look at the fitness people and go, okay, he did that in 8 weeks, but he doesn't have my life. He doesn't have 2 kids. He doesn't have a full-time job. So it might take me a little longer, and I have to understand and give myself enough time.
Well, not even like the physiological things or life or lifestyle, but genetics. Me and Pete are different. Sorry, he's a big man. You know what I mean? If I want, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of years behind that as well. But just from the very basic foundation, we started off as different. And so you can't expect to have the same road to the same place as someone who's just different. We were just talking about the fight on there. Dude's got some big old legs on him in a sport that you wouldn't expect. There's a genetic component to that, I guarantee you, that you can't anticipate.
Outstanding. Pete, I wanted to ask your perspective, coming from fitness, what do you have to say about, what he's been talking about?
Well, I definitely think that when we're talking about, behavior modification,